From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, Florida State still at it, trying to get some needs met in the portal. We'll talk about that with Michael Langston, and a weekend wrap-up as Florida State softball team wins another ACC title and now looks ahead for the march to a national championship. Wake Up Warchant is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com, the website. Daily lunch specials Monday through Friday for only $8.99, y'all. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can jump all over this one. On Mondays, build your own burger. Half-pound Black Angus burger that includes lettuce, tomato, onion, and pickle. And it comes with your choice of a side dish. Straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. $8.99 at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. You're going to love it. Tuesdays, don't forget trivia night, so get that on your social calendar, y'all. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Thumbs up, 5-star rating and review, please. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, free of charge. That thing has been cranking out content all weekend long, so hopefully you've been enjoying that. Corey Clark, did you enjoy your weekend, my friend?
I did, man. I did. It was I drove down to when did I get to Tallahassee? Friday? I don't even remember when I came down, but yeah, I've been down here for a few days and got to golf on Saturday,
nice,
which was something different. And yeah, man, had a good weekend overall.
Man, I still don't know how you do it, Corey. Like this whole commuting between Tallahassee and Atlanta, then being super dad on top of all of it. Like the last two times I've gone home now. Like I went home in April to help my mom move, and then I went back for Mother's Day, hang out for Mother's Day, and also help out with some of the stuff around the house. Man, and it just felt like that scene in Goodfellas, like as Leota's about to get popped, where it's just like, yeah, I'm helping stir the sauce, and then I got to go drop my brother off. Then I got to give the drugs to the babysitter, and I got to go dispose of the guns. But nothing illegal going on. But I'm just wiped out from all the driving I'm doing. And, like, you drive even further, and then you got to shuttle Brady to, like, parts unknown for all these baseball tournaments. And you do it with a smile on your face. It's pretty incredible, man. I don't know how you do it. Probably.
I wouldn't say I think Brady would disagree with the smile on my face part, but I do it. I mean, look, man, I am basically superhuman.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing that to everyone's attention.
All right. We'll talk to Michael Langston here midway through the show, get some more intel on what's going on in the transfer portal. I don't think people are Destyn Hill out, so let's touch on that, I guess, real quickly. Corey, you did write a story for Warchant.com over the weekend about Destyn Hill, everybody. 2021 recruit finally arrived in Tallahassee Friday evening out of New Orleans, teammates with Greedy Vance. We'll probably get to speak to him at some point here in the summer, but the unicorn, when I was talking to Jeff about it on Friday, Corey, like I don't want to say the butt of jokes, but like at some point this became such an urban legend, like a myth, and these things just don't happen. These kids never show up if it takes this long, but it finally happened. But you thought it kind of spoke to a bigger point than just simply a player arriving, number one of 85 that's on scholarship for this football team heading into 2023 and beyond. Well,
yeah, I mean, I kind of made that point in the column I wrote about it, that just this doesn't happen. I've been doing this long enough, and so have you, that when a kid doesn't come in with his class, he almost never ends up showing up. When he doesn't come in for 2 years after his class, that is, you talk about a unicorn, that is what that is. That just does not happen. And, yeah, he was the butt of jokes, man. I wouldn't say – I mean, people weren't necessarily making fun of him, but it became like a running joke among Florida State fans. Like, does he exist? Where is he? Has anybody ever seen him before? Those kind of – and we were making them too, because it just became it became like a Deshaun Platt, a Callahan Bright. You're like, okay, this kid is never going to show up. People are just going to make fun of not his circumstances, but the circumstances surrounding his recruitment to sign. Is he coming? Okay, we think he might come in 2022. No, that didn't happen. Is he coming in 2023? Finally, it did happen. But 2 years later, that isn't something that's normal. So I just wanted to, my column was kind of like a testament to him. Like, good for him, man. Yeah. Like, we don't know the situation. I think Norvell said it was It was a family situation that he stayed in. He was very vague. I don't know when we do talk to Destyn Hill if we'll ever get to the bottom of where he's been for 2 years. But the point of the column was it kind of doesn't matter, at least right now in the immediate. What's cool right now is he stuck it out and he's here. Because I've just seen it so many times, Ashlynd, where they don't come in immediately. Yeah. They just don't ever get here.
Yeah.
It's so cool. That's really neat for him, man. It's really cool. I hope he has a great career, and we'll all look back at all those jokes we made about if he exists and have you ever seen him, can you catch him with still photography, all these things we used to not make fun of, but just make jokes about. And then he showed, Friday night, Friday evening?
Yeah.
He rolls into town, and we've got actual footage of it, of him. So that was kind of the basis of my column is, number one, he deserves the most credit by far for sticking it out and actually being a college football player. That's just a really neat story. But then also Florida State stayed in touch with him, kept a spot for him. And they might really use him this year. We'll see. Who could know what kind of shape he's really in, football shape. He hasn't played a competitive game, and it'll almost been 3 years by the time LSU rolls around. It'll be like 2 years and 9 months since he's played a competitive game. But still, man, he's here, and he was the highest recruited kid in that class. Wasn't a great class, I got it, but he was a big-time get, a big-time recruit, and let's see what he looks like. But it's just, I thought that was a really feel-good moment for Florida State football that Destyn Hill actually showed up. He is here. He is a Florida State football player.
The photo they used of him, he's got a thicker neck than Tyler Martin. I like it. Sign me up. It looks 6'2" is what they list him at. So, and if he's got that 4.4 speed, that's pretty unique, at least within the confines of that receiver room. So, TBD. We'll see how it all works out. But again, Destyn Hill officially a Florida State Seminole.
Did you say Tyler Martin, like the former Florida State baseball player?
Yeah, man. His neck was like gigantic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
that was the only part of his body that was gigantic.
Yeah, it was like 140 pounds. 30% of it was,
neck.
Yeah, esophagus.
Larynx.
Yeah. I don't know if the news of Destyn Hill softened the blow at all. I didn't see a lot of hand-wringing, teeth-gnashing about Jaylen Key, the UAB transfer, Tallahassee native, played some time here at Godby. I think he also played at Gadsden County with Corey Fuller as his head coach, who's here on staff with Florida State. But he did end up picking Alabama. I didn't really see a lot of teeth gnashing on that, but that to me was it took some of the wind out of the sails with the Destyn Hill news on Friday. I guess what maybe puts some wind back in your sails that, listen, you lost to Alabama. Alabama really, really needed him as well, just as badly as Florida State needed it. Listen, it's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. You can't beat everybody out there. So point remains that they still do need a safety. Clearly, he was the number one guy on the board. Matt Lasser, a recruiting reporter who helps out with Michael Langston, has been keeping tabs on the safety out of Lafayette. Apparently, though, they have not made a move on him yet. They're being quite selective. Again, it's kind of crazy that he was the number 2 graded out safety according to PFF, but I don't know if he fits the size, speed kind of combination of things that they want. Keon Coleman's still out there, Corey, so maybe that's keeping people distracted. How did you process the news that Florida State wasn't able to land their number 1 target at their number 1 position of need in Jaylen Key?
Yeah, it was a bit of a blow because you do need, as we've talked about incessantly for the last week and a half or so, you need another safety. You can't go into the season with just 2 starters and a bunch of true freshmen. But, I don't think it was a stunner when you think about Alabama getting the last visit, and it's Alabama. Yeah. And his comments afterwards were like, all they do is prepare people and get them to the league. Yeah. And it's like, can't really argue with that, big dog. I got it. But Jaylen, that's a smart take. No, I don't think anybody begrudges him. I think the reason you thought you had a real chance was he was from Tallahassee. So that was a nice in you had. But if he had been from, I don't know, man, Fayetteville or Jacksonville or even anywhere else in the country, you might not have thought you had a chance at all. It's just that he was a Tallahassee kid that you thought, man, it would be cool if he got to come home. He's apparently really good. I mean, Alabama wanted him. Yeah. So apparently he's really good, and he's going to go play in the SEC. So fine. Turn your back on your towel, man. Whatever, however you sleep at night, Jaylen. No, I mean, obviously nobody's going to fault anybody for choosing Alabama. I will say I always thought it was, and I know people might roll their eyes, but the one disadvantage that Florida State had when it came to offering playing time that Alabama had more playing time to offer. Like in the sense that those jobs are wide open. Their safety positions are wide open, and Florida State's returning a couple of guys that you could say are returning starters. You know, Shaheem Brown played a lot. So I just think maybe if I don't know, do you think if Akeem Dent wasn't on the team, would Florida State have had a better shot at it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I do wonder, I don't know if it's playing time versus kind of track record. You know, my not nightmare, but like what I envision is that like Alabama's like, yeah, man, listen, we need you. We just lost 2 safeties to the NFL, second round, third round. Meanwhile, They just lost a guy to the NFL who probably is better than our guys, and he went 5th round. It's our little magic dust. Just because you just playing here, by virtue of playing here, putting on this jersey, the numbers on your helmet, the spear means a lot too, but like just coming here alone is going to give you benefit of the doubt and probably knock you up a round or 2 in the NFL draft alone, because I do want to keep tabs and see how those guys pan out in the NFL versus Jamie. To me, that was the bigger sort of thing versus the playing time, because I'm sure they identified guys they wanted to replace those guys on their roster, and they had 15 practices in the spring to get a leg up. But, yeah, I guess Akeem being kind of so entrenched for a while might give you a little bit of pause. But I just think you're probably so darn confident in who you are. You're like, man, give me the preseason practices, and by the end of September, man, that's my job. But it still is an obstacle that wasn't at Alabama. So I get your point.
Correct. And look, so what they need now is they need somebody that will be okay competing for a job, but certainly not being guaranteed of winning a job. And quite frankly, when you're looking at the options that are left, and I know they had the JUCO kid on campus, Barker, I think his last name is Barker, yeah. Ashlynd Barker. From Iowa Western, I think, which is where Derwin Kitchen played a little, dabbled in college basketball before he came to Florida State.
Nice.
So I think that is somebody that would really help just for depth purposes and would be cool being a depth piece. Now, he is not coming here to be a backup. He wants to play. He wants to compete. And he will have every opportunity to compete. And I'm saying this as if he chooses Florida State. But it's different than a kid that's like the number 1 safety in the portal. I just think. I think so now you come to and look, if Jaylen Key had said yes, you don't know what your starting safety situation is now. I think now with the options that are left, you got the EAM team. That's your starting safety position, and anybody you add is almost certainly going to be the first guy off the bench, the first backup, right?
Yes.
Isn't that where we are now? Uh-huh. So now you're in the portal for depth, and you need it. So maybe JUCO is the best route, or a Division II kid, or not maybe a Division II kid, but a Group of 5 school. That's your bet. And a young guy wouldn't be the end of the world either, but I think at this point it'd have to be a grad transfer. Yeah, it would, except for the JUCO
yes,
kids.
Correct.
I think that wouldn't be the end of the world. It's not great that you missed out because it was a position of need. But if you can go get an Ashlynd Barker, a JUCO kid that they want, that's played football, that's older, then maybe that softens the blow a bit, and going into the season, you don't have a lot of depth, but Barker gives you a little bit more that maybe you feel pretty good about.
A little bit of an interesting wrinkle to it, though, Corey, I guess, is the fact that it's maybe like the Destyn Hill almost of the defense in terms of apparently with the way the calendar broke for him. You know, his last year in high school was a COVID year, so I don't think he got to play all that much, and then apparently the 1 year he was out there at Iowa Western, I don't think he played, so he actually redshirted. So he'll obviously get his legs underneath him really fast. But, hey, you got the EAM team to be the stopgap, right? So we're good.
Yeah, I mean, again, you wanted it's a pretty big gap from Jaylen Key to Ashlynd Barker in terms of experience. I mean, that's an enormous gap. That's a Grand Canyon gap between experience. As far as ability, who knows? Who could even make a guess with somebody like Ashlynd Barker? But he's another body to throw at a problem.
Correct. Yes.
Right?
Well
so
said.
that to me is the biggest thing. You've got, and it's almost, I don't care who it is. Yeah, obviously you do, but you've got to throw another body at this problem in case part of the EAM team gets broken up. If they sprain an ankle and you've got to go to KJ Kirkland or another true freshman, you might be in real trouble. So Jaylen Key would have been a huge addition to this team. It doesn't mean, I don't know that it changes your win-losses. I mean, if these two guys stay healthy, you got nothing to worry about. It's just if you just really worry if one of them gets hurt and you don't have an answer behind them.
I'll give a lot of fans credit. I'm going to stand firm in my conviction that I'd rather have had Jaylen Key than Keon Coleman. Not that Keon Coleman is on board right now, and who knows? By the time you're listening to this, folks, maybe Barker's on board because I think Oregon State might be the only kind of other visit he has set up. So I don't know if he needs to really go to Corvallis.
Yeah, what are you going to do there?
Yeah, so who knows? He might actually be part of the program by the time you're listening to this. But I definitely wanted Key ahead of Coleman. Would have loved to have both, obviously. But, does it shift your perspective at all if they do get Coleman because you just figured, the best defense is a really good offense and they'll just have any imaginable illusion you want to see out there of a weakness for Florida State's offense would be absolutely mitigated by bringing in a guy of Keon Coleman's stature onto your offense. And at that point, you're like, whatever, man, just whole team's under 30. We'll be all right.
Well, look, I think it's fair to say that Keon Coleman is a better football player than Jaylen Key. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's better for the 2023 Florida State football team. Like as far as long-term goals, you know what I mean? Like
right.
Because you already have a really good offense. The defense is probably going to be pretty good. Jaylen Key would have probably made it a tick better. Maybe he beats out Akeem Dent or Shaheem Brown and is really good. Who knows? But that said, a Keon Coleman type on your offense, let's just say it's Keon Coleman. Well, all of a sudden now you basically got two number ones to go along with one of the best quarterbacks in the country, to go along with one of the best running backs in the country, to go along with one of the best tight end groups in the country, and an offensive line that has over 200 starts. Like literally you would have on paper, before the season starts, one of the best offenses you've ever had. I'm serious, and I'm talking about. I know the 90s offenses put up a ton of yards and points, but I'm talking about in relation to the competition you're now playing because the ACC was such trash back then, and now you have an offense that legitimately is really good across the board at every position, elite at every position. Man, you have two guys out wide with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. Come on, man. That's not fair. That wouldn't be fair. To go along with Jaheim Bell in the slot. And then Trey Benson coming out of the flat, Toa Feely coming out in the flats or wheel routes, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, if you add Keon Coleman to the mix, if you just analytically, if Derek Ray, and he seems like a Jonah Hill Moneyball type guy, you know what I mean, where he's really breaking it down and he's got the charts and the graphs. Would Keon Coleman add more points to the offense than Jaylen Key would take away from the defensive points? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Like
or yards maybe, like yards. Like would there be fewer yards allowed with Jaylen Key on the field, or will there be more yards gained?
More yards gained with Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, the yards differential.
Right. No.
Does it go? Is it higher with Keon Coleman on the team or Jaylen Key on the team? I think you could argue probably convincingly that Keon Coleman makes a bigger difference in the grand scheme of 2023 Florida State football. Because when you look at the numbers, and he's a young kid, well, those look like numbers from somebody that's going to play in the NFL and get drafted kind of high in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And you already got a pretty good amount of guys on the offense that you can say that about. So we don't know that about Jaylen Key. I would assume if Jaylen Key was a ready-made top 2 or 3 round pick NFL guy, we'd have seen him in the draft 2 weeks ago.
Touché.
He's certainly draft eligible. So Keon Coleman, I think, is a draftable, maybe a highly draftable wide receiver. So yeah, I think all things considered, I think it's definitely he's the more talented football player, and I think you could certainly make the argument, and this isn't sour grapes because I'm not making the argument. I'm saying one could, that the football team actually gets a tick or a touch better with Keon Coleman instead of Jaylen Key.
Yeah, I feel the thing working, if you want to call it working against Florida State, which it sounds like Keon Coleman, that should be like a slam dunk. I mean, just play that for him, everybody. That was a great sales pitch at Core. Just lay it out there. And it's
Come on, Keon.
It's complete facts. I just wonder if, Lane can pull the same kind of card almost to, a lesser degree, obviously, than Nick can, in terms of, when I was in Alabama, we had, Ruggs, and I don't know if he actually overlapped with Ruggs, but I think they probably at least had Jerry Jeudy and those kind of guys. Like, I coach those guys at Alabama. I will coach you. I will put you in the NFL, because it's like just one more draft cycle, man. Like if Florida State could point to Johnny Wilson, the way they'll be able to point to Johnny Wilson next year, if they could have that now, would be so valuable. If, the way they could have, if Jamie would have been able to go up a few more rounds higher, I think that would help kind of mitigate some of that. On3's been doing these polls, or rather these lists here, Corey, in coordination with PFF. Top 10 returning wide receivers: Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1, Johnny Wilson 7 on the list. So that'd be a freaking heck of a combination to pair together, and that offense would be absolutely absurd. Like, LSU might give you a run, Clemson. Otherwise, I would listen to every coach's Monday press conference before they played FSU, just to see the absolute glum on their face of we can't outscore these guys. It's not fair. It's like a piece of iron. He's not a man. He's like a piece of iron almost.
And when you go back to the comparison, there is no guarantee. And again, I promise it's not sour grapes. There's no guarantee that Jaylen Key was going to play a lot for Florida State. There was no guarantee he was going to. There wasn't, right?
Yeah, but so how Alabama not having starters, that's the more of a guarantee?
I just think the point is, Keon Coleman, if he chose Florida State, would play a ton.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. So
that's what I mean.
For sure. Yes.
That's what I mean. Yes. You are getting a guy that is going to be on the field a lot.
Well, he knows.
As opposed to a guy. Yeah, of course he does too. Yeah. As opposed to Jaylen Key, who might be awesome again. He might be all SEC. But you don't know right now, as we stand here on May 15th, that he would have gotten 500 plays or 400 snaps or 250 snaps at Florida State. Keon Coleman would get those. I mean, he's just go watch the highlights, guys. He would get a lot. But again, he ain't here yet. We don't know if he's ever coming. But if he did, he would be a big addition.
Yeah, come on, Oxford's all right, but Tallahassee's much better. I've been to both places, Keon. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about.
You do.
We'll have Michael Langston on here shortly. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to recruiting. You folks should check out vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. Go to vitaminenergy.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT, BOGO, BOGO, and get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. Vitamin Energy gives you 7 or more hours of natural energy via the caffeine surge here. No sugar crash. Comes in different varieties to give you vitamins that focus on all sorts of ailments that we're all trying to get better at dealing with, whether it's our mood, whether it's our energy level, whether it's working out better, whether it's having a better immune response, better focus. And at the helm is a 2-sport Florida State alum, all ACC standout on the track oval. We're not going to tell you the other sport. We're going to keep that secret from you folks. But we'll give you the promo code. Again, WARCHANT, BOGO, BOGO. And if you're in Tallahassee, or check out your local Sunstop, let us know if you can find it on the counters there. But we know that the one in College Town, the Sunstop, has the Vitamin Energy in stock. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is WARCHANT, BOGO, BOGO. Michael Langston coming up right after this. As promised, Michael Langston here on Wake Up Warchant. Might also be a breakout video on YouTube, so hit the thumbs up. Michael likes that. Busy weekend, Michael. I guess first off, before we get to the nuts and bolts of everything that's going on for Florida State for the 2023 season, Destyn Hill showing up, man. How cool was that for you professionally to finally see that come to fruition?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I'm not going to lie. I don't care who you are. I don't care you do this for media. You know what the kid's gone through, and to get to this moment, be 2 years away, and then finally just seeing the emotion of him with Greedy and David Johnson. I mean, if you're not welling up, I don't care if you're a media member or not. I mean, that's a special moment, and he looked phenomenal. He looked great when I saw him, and I think he's ready to get to work. And so I think it was just a great moment. So one of the most memorable moments I can say in recruiting that I've had in a while. Just seeing that moment, and obviously, we never thought it would get here, and then I call it Sam Spiegelman Day, because that's what it was. It was justification for Sam, who broke the news, and but it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Not a great experience, losing out on Jaylen Key. That was a bit of a bummer, but again, it's Alabama. I don't know if you want to maybe touch on anything with his recruitment, but where does Florida State now go at safety? Corey and I mentioned the JUCO safety that was on campus here this past weekend. I don't know, the reporting maybe I'm reading too much into it. Michael feels like maybe by the time this makes air, he might be a Florida State Seminole. But where does Florida State go right now at safety after Jaylen Key commits to Alabama?
Yeah, they put a lot into the Jaylen Key recruitment, and it was close. It was back and forth. We'd heard one day, the day before, that it was going to be FSU, and then as he thought more about it, as I told people on the PRB, I think it was more about the system they run is more simplified than kind of some of the stuff FSU runs a little more complex. But that was kind of the reasoning I heard with Jaylen. I think it was really close, but yeah, I think they certainly are active with the kid that visited this weekend and out of Iowa Western JUCO. He's actually from Columbus, Georgia.
Oh, Ashlynd Barker's from Georgia.
Ashlynd Barker. That's the kid that visited over the weekend. I felt like everything went really good. I was actually thinking he might pop on the visit, but I think it will happen. I think he will be he will end up eventually a Seminole. I think everything points to that I've gotten. Obviously, I'll check again on it, but I think everything looks good. There seems a big connection. He feels really good there, 6'3", probably 205, something like that. And I think even with him, I think they still want a portal guy because they need safeties. They didn't just one. So I think even if they get him, I could see them going out in the portal. Right now, I'm still figuring out the names. The kid from Louisiana, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
Cam Pettis-Clou.
I'll
do it. Cam Pettis-Clou.
That's a kid that I think could be a possibility. I don't think they've really pushed yet. I think they're kind of figuring out who their next line of major targets are. So I think they're still figuring it out and dissecting things. But I think there's like probably 7 to 8 guys that they're looking at, just checking in, seeing if this fit was there and going from there. But I think certainly I think they still want a guy from the portal if possible. If it doesn't work out, then oh well, but I think Barker definitely. I think they covet him, so I think that's a guy they want, unless something happens with several portal guys that are safeties that maybe they like a little better. But as of right now, I think it would be Barker would be in this class.
Any concerns, Michael? Corey and I did a little quick research on it. Apparently, I think his senior year kind of got cut short due to COVID, and this last year he was at Iowa Western. He redshirted, so he's almost like Destyn, I guess, in a certain regard. He hasn't played football in a while. Is there any concern there, or has the tape kind of checked out and the staff feels good about it?
I think the tape checked out. They went to see him in the spring evaluations probably a couple weeks ago. Okay. They went to see him. Adam Fuller went to see him. Several of the coaches went to see him. They fell in love with this kid. They were already liking him, what they saw from his time at Columbus. And the reason he went to JUCO was to generate more interest in what he was getting out of high school. So I think he's a guy they like a lot, and certainly they fell in love with, got him on official visit. Bam got him over here, and everything I've heard throughout the visit from FSU contacts is, man, Mike Norvell and this staff really like this kid and they want him. So they're pushing pretty badly as far as adding him in this class. So I don't get the impression they're that worried about, despite him redshirting or he hasn't played in a few years.
All right. Big fish that's still out there between, I guess, Florida State and another SEC program, Michael, would be Keon Coleman.
Right.
It seemed like it was really, really hot. Everything was running really good. Then things kind of cooled off. I don't know if that's because Jaylen Key had announced that he was going to make a decision this past weekend, so everybody was focused on that. I don't know if we have a timetable or not, or any updates kind of on Keon Coleman. But does he remain a target here for Florida State, and a legitimate one at that?
Absolutely, definitely a main target. Definitely a guy that they're communicating daily with. The news that was developing with him was, I think something is likely to happen next week or this upcoming week for a decision. He was thinking about taking a visit to Texas A&M, as I pointed out to people on our PRB, and Louisville was another team that was in consideration. There was other schools trying to get involved, but I think those two teams are the teams that I think he visited. It's like, you know what? I'm good with these two. Let's not complicate things and get more teams and complex and make it more complex. So I think he felt good. And I will say this, I'm not going to go into detail about how I feel, but I will say that FSU's visit was the best. And I think there's a very legit shot at Keon Coleman. I'm not going to go into too much. I'll dive
Give us a
into
little
it
more.
later.
Give us a little more, Mike. Give us a little more. A little sample.
I'll dive into it later when it's decision time, but I think there's a very real shot for FSU to land Keon Coleman. I know anytime you go against the SEC, people get nervous, but I think in this one, I think they've done a phenomenal job of the things that Keon wants is, one, he wants to be in the explosive offense. He wants to be in an offense that is a team that's really going to be good, like has the potential to be really good. And if you look at everything that he's looking for, from a top tier veteran quarterback to an offense to FSU being a preseason top 10 to having all these pieces, and then also seeing guys like Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson, Jordan Travis, Jaheim Bell around him, I think that's very enticing to him because it's kind of says, well, he could be the missing piece, and I think that's very attractive to him. So I think there's a very real shot with FSU and Keon Coleman. So that's the name. Definitely don't forget. I mean, because he's certainly one. Zakiya Franklin's another one that they're involved with, but I think they're solely locked in on Keon. I mean, the fact that they haven't set up anything is even more intriguing as far as another visit, because they could easily set something up with Franklin. I'm told that he would be interested in certainly taking a visit, but they're definitely focused on Coleman. They want him, and he would be a massive big addition for that offense. That would make that offense go from really good to kind of scary when you think about the matchups that they would have with all the different positions.
Yeah, the only thing I was worrying about when you talked about explosive offense, I'm like, well, Lane does as good of a job as Mike. I'm not going to say better or worse because it's the Florida State podcast. I don't want to get people upset. But Ole Miss, their passing offense, I was like, well, they do seem to throw the ball a heck of a lot more than Florida State does. Florida State seems much more balanced. But their passing offense is not it's 58th last year. They had the 58th ranked passing offense last year. Ole Miss, Florida State, meanwhile, 28th. So that exists here. I know there's so many playmakers here at Tallahassee. I hope that doesn't scare them away. But the fact of the matter is, they just get everybody involved. It'd be crazy to think of him picking Ole Miss over Florida State if you're looking at explosive offenses and most likely to succeed, because that all seems to be here. But then obviously the NIL component becomes something that's real.
Yeah,
that,
I think it just circles. I just circle back for him. I just circle back to the reason he's leaving Michigan State, he can put up good numbers at Michigan State. Like, he's really good. Like, I saw him when he played against Michigan. He lit them up 2 years ago in East Lansing, just tore them up. And that was a really good Michigan team that played for, in a playoff later. So I think that for me, the quarterback is a big essential thing in this recruitment. I don't know what Ole Miss's plans at quarterback is or what they have.
Spencer Sanders, Jackson Dart. Yeah, they got
it's up in the air about who's going to be. But I think with FSU, you have a Heisman candidate in Jordan Travis. You have an offense that's going to take pressure off you, so you're not going to have to do everything. If say Ole Miss, because Ole Miss is kind of looking for playmakers. They want multiple receivers. They don't have a lot. So I think with FSU they do, but I think that's enticing to him when you have the type of, like, where the team's going from an upward swing for FSU compared to Ole Miss, where they're pretty good, but it wasn't like the way people view FSU's offense, and so and team. So I think those are certainly some enticing factors. I'll keep on it as I always will, but I definitely think there is a very real shot for FSU and Keon Coleman.
So much going on in terms of 2024, 2025 class prospects. Check out the PRB for that. But let's touch on this one before we let you go, Michael. Kylan Fox, tight end out of Grayson High School out there in Loganville. 4-star consensus tight end, 6'4.5", 217 pounds. What do you think he took away from his visit here in Tallahassee this past weekend?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think it was more about him just being around the coaches again, building relationships, just getting stronger, and also just being some around the players to kind of experience just what they're like, because that's something he didn't really see as much of. He knows. You could listen to when Kylan talks about this offense, he knows what they're going to do with the tight end. He knows Jaheim Bell really well, so he knows Jaheim, the type of talent Jaheim is, and then his good friend Landon Thomas is coming as well. He's already committed to FSU, so that certainly bodes and helps FSU comfort-wise. And I think I came in that visit where I was like, would I be surprised if he popped? No, but I was leaning more towards like, yeah, probably he's going to take official visits because it seemed to be something he wanted to do. And so, FSU gets the last official visit, and that's always major no matter what. And when you get the last official visit, he didn't tell us a date for the commitment, but then later, probably 30 minutes to an hour, he contacted I think Chad Simmons talked to him and said his commitment will be on July 4th. So he's going to announce a commitment on July 4th. That's a week after, right after FSU's official visit with him. So that ain't bad. So I think their chances are really good. I like where they sit. I think they're the favorite. I think he's probably the top target after Landon. I think Landon was certainly the number one, and I think Kylan's also another one. There's other players that they like, obviously. Amir Jackson, he's another 4-star tight end, but I think Kylan's been the guy that they focus a lot on. Right now, I'd say that's kind of the guy that's most likely that you see in this Noles 2024 class.
You would have known about most of all of this if you were a member of warchant.com and checked out the premium recruiting board. So that's a plug to go ahead and do that.
Here you go.
Big takeaway here, though, as Michael said, Keon Coleman decision likely to happen this week. We're recording on Sunday, so sometimes we get our dates messed up. But this coming week, we should have a finality on that. Michael, we appreciate your time as always. What should they do on the way out?
Oh, always hit the like button, guys. Stay tuned. Late in the week, I'm going to do a 10 to watch. I'm going to work on a new one for you guys. So we will have that. There's going to be more visitors. I'd say a sprinkle of visitors probably on the weekend. I'll get into that later in the week. And so we got a few things coming up, but definitely hit that like button on your way out, guys.
Boom. Michael, appreciate you, man.
Got it.
Corey, I don't want to jinx it. You weren't, maybe I was loose because you weren't there when I recorded the read for my bookie for the Friday show, but I told everybody to take the Lakers and the under on Game 6 between Miami and the Knicks. And, sure enough, everybody, hopefully you packaged those together and you cruised.
Because I had that feeling about I had a good feeling about the Celtics against the Sixers in Game 6.
Yeah.
So that's 3 in a row we've given these folks.
So we're just saying, everybody, I don't know if we should throw some baseball odds at you folks, but you can bet anything, anytime over at mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT for an instant cash deposit bonus. It's a few days here in the future, but man, Miami getting 8 points. I'm just not going to bet against Miami. Anybody? I just won't do it right now. Not that I'm like a Miami fan, but they just keep surprising everybody. I think they'll maybe keep it tight in Game 1. They might be a little bit more well rested than Boston, although the C's cruised on Sunday to their victory over Philadelphia. Lakers getting 5.5. Maybe the over on that. I could just, Denver's going to score. Lakers will score. I can say like a 120. 110-ish kind of score. So those are my picks. I don't feel all that great about them, but do with those as you will. Anything with the baseball odds you want me to throw your way here, Corey? Do you do any of these? You can do 5-inning odds. So apparently, you can bet for the first 5 innings, and you kind of just play the matchups. Like whatever team's got an ace going, and you hope the other team doesn't. What are your thoughts about that strategy?
I don't like it. I want to go back to playoff basketball. I think that my philosophy going into these Game 1s is bet against the teams that had the harder prior rounds. I feel like the Lakers, you have a tendency to be there's a sense of relief. You just ousted the defending champs. You beat Steph Curry. So there is a tendency to relax a little bit in Game 1, and then it becomes a series again once you get hit in the mouth from Game 2 to Game 7. I see the same thing with the Celtics. I think the Celtics will probably win Game 1, but I don't see them cruising.
No.
I think that's going to be a dogfight. I think there's a sense of relief. They came back again from a 3-2 deficit. They won a Game 7 on a Sunday. I think to turn around that Game 1, it's natural to be a little flat. Right. And I think Miami knows they have a real good shot to steal that one. And I think the Nuggets have a real good shot to put the hammer down on the Lakers. I think the Lakers might take Game 1 a little lightly and then come back with all the marbles for Game 2. So I'm just saying, I would take the Heat +8 for sure.
Yes.
Nuggets -5.5. I'm not nearly as convinced on that.
All right. MyBookie.ag. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Be sure to use the promo code WARCHANT for your instant cash deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere over at MyBookie.ag. Hey, Corey, before we get to the bat and ball stuff, there was 2 questions that stuck to the bottom of the mailbag. You want to get to those first, or should we talk about the bat and ball stuff?
Well, hey, buddy, it's up to you. You're driving the show.
All right, let's go to the questions that we lost here. Our guy Noel Boyo 2 is asking, what's the most impressive FSU play you've seen live? And I was at the 2013 national title game as you were. I mean, you've been in all of them, so maybe I don't know. I don't want to speak for you. I'm going to guess maybe Peter Warwick's touchdown in New Orleans might be yours. I saw the Winston to Kelvin touchdown, but I'm going to say Rick's to Sam. I mean, just to be in the swamp and see that live, feel that energy exit and then enter my being. That's probably actually this is most impressive play.
Yeah, what do you think that means? What do you think it means impressive? Not most meaningful.
Right. Oh, well, impressive then would be Greg Jones' 2002 Clemson game Thursday night in Doak.
You know what? That's crazy. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, stop it!
I promise it was. I'm not just agreeable to be agreeable. That's exactly what I was going to say because I wanted to go off the beaten path a little bit and choose a play that maybe nobody thinks about as much as they should. That to me is the one. I mean, it doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it should. But he was literally throwing people off him. It was just crazy. It was before he had his knee injury that year, and he was never quite the same runner. But man, he was awesome then in that season, and he was just such a beast, man. And once he got going, come on. Oh. But so I'm gonna go with that one. And if not that one, I'll do T-Buck had a pick 6 against Virginia Tech in 1990. So folks, go look that up. Just type in Terrell Buckley Florida State highlights. He had one. He intercepted Will Furr, who was the quarterback for Virginia Tech. He intercepted him like twice every year they played him. But this one, he intercepts. They're down already. It's the third quarter. They're down. It's a big moment in the game. He intercepts it. He's still got 30 yards to go, and he's high-stepping with like 8 people in front of him that he's got to maneuver around, and then he points to a guy that needs to be blocked. It's just a really cool play. So I'm going to go with T-Buck since you chose Greg Jones.
I'm trying to still find the yardage on this thing. Did he not score on it? He scored on it, I thought, right?
He might not have. He might have gotten down to the 1 or something.
All right. Let me see. They got to have the long for Jones, 64-yard run. So.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
I don't even know if it was that long a run. I thought it literally was just like a 20-yard run where he was just throwing people off him. Ran through the whole defense.
Yeah, for like the first 20 yards he was doing that. And then he just started like zipping down the sideline there. So
that's a lot to choose from. That's a tough question.
Yeah. Thanks, Noel Boyo, too. And then our guy, Kari, BK, he said he asked in the chat, but we didn't get to it during the live show. Florida State has the type of season we expect them to on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being they stay, 10 being they definitely leave. How confident are you that both Atkins and Adam Fuller, their status, like would you put a 1 that they both stay or 10 that they both are leaving? If it goes as we expect it to. I don't know, I guess you and I, do we want to say we expect playoff? I'll say I expect playoff because I expect playoff.
All right. Okay. All right.
If that happens, man, I'll say, man, I think only I don't know what Fuller. I don't know if Fuller's like waiting for the Boston College job. Like I don't know if Fuller wants to stay in the South and be a head coach out here. And I don't know if a job in the South is going to want Adam Fuller to be their head coach. But Atkins, yeah, man, because this offense is going to lead them to a playoff. And if you're in the playoff, and I know maybe you're not the play caller, but you've been here this whole time, turning it around. You've worked under this guy closely for 4 years.
Yeah.
You're going to get a really, really good job offer. I would say I'd put it at a 3. Well, actually, no. So definitely leaving, I would say a 7 for Atkins. Fuller,
I would say under the premise of them reaching the playoff, which means they're probably averaging 40 points a game. His second year as an OC, what he's done with the offensive line, I think a 7 is probably low. Just because I think he is – number one, he's going to crush whatever interview he does.
Right.
Everybody's going to speak glowingly about him. And the results speak for themselves. The resume speaks for itself. So it would just be if he wants to be upwardly mobile, which I think we all think he does, that I would be very surprised if they have that kind of year that he is not a head coach in 2024 somewhere else. I'm not rooting for it. We were just asked the question.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the business of like underselling him because he doesn't call plays, because it's great what Mike did for the offense last year calling plays, but man, what this offensive line had been for so long and what it is now, and just like the level of arrogance we almost have with talking about this offensive line. We're like, oh, we're going to be Bless Harris at left tackle or Robert Scott? Like, does it really matter? He's going to figure it out. They've got so many options. Like, to be at this position, and it's him, man. As much maybe credit as Mike Norvell can take for the offense, not to take away from, I think, Cooper Williams and the Gabe Fertitta, who I think help out. But, like, man, that's an Alex Atkins production, that offensive line. It's incredible what he's done, and that's going to stand out incredible to any program that needs a new leader, man.
And I would think most everyone listening to this show understands that he is one of the best assistant coaches in the United States. You could not argue it. If you're listening to this show, you know the depths of despair that position was 3 or 4 years ago before he got here. And where it is now is all the evidence you need of what kind of assistant coach he is. The only issue he might have, in my opinion, is, like you said, he's not an offensive coordinator that calls plays. Norvell does that. And college football programs have been, let's say, hesitant about promoting offensive line coaches to head coach. It does happen. Sam Pittman, I'm sure there are other examples, but not many. They usually go the OC quarterback coach route. Or a defensive coordinator. They don't typically go offensive line coach.
But the fact he's got the offensive coordinator title is huge, though, right? For any kind of obstacle in terms of
and I don't think
it's
not title as in they slapped a title on his name. He does coordinate the offense from Sunday to Friday. Yeah. He and Norvell work hand in hand to come up with the game plan, to come up with the scheme, to break down film. It's just that on Saturdays, it's Norvell calling the plays, and you do wonder if a school president or a school AD is going to think twice about that. I think they would be idiotic to think twice about it, but I don't know how those people think. I would hire him tomorrow if I had an opening. I think the guy could be one of the next stars of college coaching.
Let's get to the bat and ball sports. Let's get to your ACC champion Florida State softball team. They end the well, I shouldn't say they end the regular season because the ACC tournament's the postseason. They're now 50-8. They have won their 8th ACC title in the last 9 years, Corey. Their path included a 4-1 victory over Syracuse in the quarterfinals. Josie Muffley with a game-tying home run. Mac Leonard had 3 RBIs in the victory. On Friday, the semifinal 9-1 victory over number 22 Virginia Tech. They had an ACC tournament record 5 doubles. Kaylee Harding went 2 for 4 with a jack and 4 ribbies. Catherine Sandercock, 6 innings pitched, only 3 hits allowed, 1 run. And then on Saturday, they took home the title with a 2-1 win over Duke. Bethany Keene with the game-winning RBI walk-off. Catherine Sandercock credited with the win 23-3. A little bit of, I think, drama out there. I guess apparently umps blowing the game. I saw Twitter was very heavy in the ACC officiating criticisms. I didn't get to see what happened, but at least the ladies pulled it out.
There were a couple of – this was the championship game against Duke. There were a couple of and we're hoping to get Lonnie on the show this week, everyone, and I can't wait to ask her about this. But there were a couple of calls that even when they went to replay, I don't think they got them right after watching the replay reviews. But then there was one in particular. It was like the 5th or I think it was the 5th inning. It was tied 1-1. Maybe it was the 6th. But anyway, Florida State's up. Runner on first, nobody out. Edenfield's up. I think Harding is on base. Harding's on first. Edenfield hits an absolute missile to the third baseman. Like as hard as she can hit a ball to the third baseman who reaches up. The ball goes into her glove momentarily. She spins to try to make a throw, and the ball comes out. And then she tries to throw to first to get Edenfield out because she dropped the ball. She throws it down the right field line. So it's Florida State second and third, nobody out in a tie game with 5, 6, 7 coming up in their order. But then the umpires get together. I think they reviewed it. I can't quite remember. I don't know how you'd review it. And they said, no, she caught it on the she caught the ball. And then on the transfer to try to throw to first, she dropped the ball. Harding never went back to third. Harding never went back to first to touch first. Right. So it ended up being a double play.
Ugh.
They gave her credit for a double play when I don't think she ever caught the ball. I do not think it was on the transfer. I think the ball just popped out of her glove because it was hit a million miles an hour. And so instead of second, third, nobody out in a tie game, it's a double play and nobody's on base. So that was that was where I think Florida State fans are really like, what is going on? Well, how is this happening all game? So that was a really bizarre moment. But either way, yeah, the umps didn't help Florida State out a ton, but you know what? Didn't matter, did it, Ashlynd?
No, sir. No, sir. Again, their 8th ACC Tournament championship in the last 9 years.
Did you see the walk-off?
No. Paint it for us. Bethany Keene.
Okay, so I don't know if she got credit for a double or not. Maybe she did. Runner on first, 2 outs. Flaherty's up. Flaherty's on base because Flaherty's always on base. She is just as good a softball player as you could hope for in so many different ways. But anyway, so she's stealing. The ball is hit. There's 2 outs, so she's just running because the ball is hit. There's 2 outs. There's nothing to worry about. It is a bloop that lands right in front of the left fielder. The left fielder comes up, tries to catch it. It's between the shortstop and the left fielder. I think she goes to her knees to try to catch it. She misses it. It kicks off her knee and bounces, 6 feet in front of her. And Travis Wilson, the third base coach, just waves her home, Flaherty, because she can really run. And Flaherty scores all the way from first on a bloop that landed in front of the left fielder. And that's how they won on a walk-off. So she gets credit for a double, I think. But either way, that's how Florida State beats you, man. They're really good with the gloves, clearly. They can hit for doubles. I think they lead the country in doubles. They've got pitching. They got 4 or 5 pitchers they depend on, including Sandra Cock, who's been awesome since a bit of a slow start. I think I called her out. I think I got her season right in February when I said I didn't like what I was seeing from her, and she's been incredible since. But and then they have the speed, and they always put pressure on you. And Flaherty, Mudge, Kerr, Muffley, they can all run, and they run a lot. And they just there aren't many teams that would even try to score from first on a bloop in front of the left fielder, and Florida State walks it off that way.
1.89 doubles per game, second in the nation. Through May 12th. So maybe they didn't update. Yeah, the May 12th was Friday, so they didn't update what happened on Saturday against Duke. So if that was a double that she got credited with, that would maybe knock them ahead of whoever's ahead of them. So next up now, the NCAA National Tournament, Florida State a national 3 seed. Coming to Tallahassee, Marist, South Carolina, and UCF. A bit of a silver lining. Maybe you guys don't like that draw because you get an in-state team and then an SEC team, which
that's always going to happen.
Right, yeah. Last year was Mississippi State. The silver lining, Corey, as we point out last year, maybe got ahead of our skis, a little too big for our britches. The fact that you're if you make it to Oklahoma City, you're not on the same side of the bracket, I don't think, with Oklahoma. But you do have UCLA, which is the 2 seed.
Right, but it's better than Oklahoma. But you get there first. So and especially after what happened last year, I can't imagine they're looking ahead of past anyone. It's a very similar draw, and as Lonnie said, it always will be. They always expect, when they're the one, that the 2-3 will be a matchup of an SEC school versus an in-state school. Last year it was Mississippi State versus South Florida. Yeah. This year it's
UCF and South Carolina.
It's UCF South Carolina. So it's always going to be like that, most likely. So anyway, and if they win their regional, they're matched up with the Georgia regional.
Correct. It's
and
Georgia.
I can promise you, guys, I know many of you know that I went to Georgia. I can promise you I'm rooting for Lonnie. Yes. I can't name one softball player on the Georgia team. I don't know who the head coach is. I do not care at all. I care about Lonnie and this program, and I want them to get back to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe 3 years ago, the only thing that would be close for you would be football. But, Florida State was in such a dire straits.
Yeah, even then, it's not close. And it's certainly not close anymore.
Right.
When Florida State plays Georgia in a year or two, whenever that is, if that happens, I promise you I'm not going to be upset if Georgia loses at all. I will be pouring stuff on myself and for all your pleasure if they beat Georgia in a couple years. This year. If they beat Georgia this year somewhere, we're going to be excited.
Athens Regional is obviously Georgia, Boston University, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina Central. So, geographically, Florida State kind of gets hosed because of everything that happens here in the state of Florida. Because, that's a much better draw. You got a team from the Northeast and a team from a lower conference, and then Virginia Tech is your only kind of toughie. But anyway, we'll try to get Coach Alameda here on the program to talk about Team 40. Stay connected with us on that. Baseball, number 1 Wake Forest came to town this past weekend, Friday. not great. 10-0 final. Rhett Lauder there Friday night. Mr. Friday Night starter went 7 innings, allowed only 4 hits, no runs. Saturday, Florida State took the lead in the 6th inning, courtesy of a Jaime Ferrer RBI triple. In the top of the 7th, Wake Forest tied it up. Diamez Ross gave them a go-ahead RBI in the 7th, but then Wake Forest had 6 runs in the 8th and 9th inning to take that one 7-3. But a bit of a silver lining again. They salvaged some kind of dignity, or at least a good feeling in a year that's been absolutely pretty much devoid of it. Corey, you were out at Hauser on Sunday. What did you see from Florida State, Link Jarrett, and their victory over Wake Forest on Sunday?
Yeah, man, I got to write a column. I think I must be good luck. I've seen them win a couple of times this year, Ashlynd, which I know most of you guys haven't. But yeah, I thought it's weird because after the game we were talking to Link, and I was asking him because we got to mention they cannot make the ACC tournament now. We knew it was going to be tough anyway before the weekend started. But now they're officially not in the ACC tournament, which means their postseason streak is over. They are not going to make the NCAA tournament, folks. I hate to spoil that for you, but they didn't even make their conference tournament. Like, they had an outside shot if they make the conference tournament. Maybe they go on a run and get in automatically, but that's done. So on the one hand, we're asking them about the best win of the season. They just beat the number 1 team in the country on a walk-off from a kid that had 3 hits all year. So that's cool. But on the same token,
say his name, Jordan Williams.
Yeah. And he's the one I missed watching him bat because he batted to start the year when Ross got hurt. He's the kid that leans in towards the pitcher like the pitcher's leaning in towards him. Yeah. Like he's almost getting the sign from the pitcher, like he's getting a sign from a catcher. It's pretty fun to watch. But anyway, cool for him. He got the game-winning hit. But then we're having to ask Link about how cool that was to beat the number 1 team in the country, a walk-off. But at the same time, he knows there's 4 games left and the season's over. Like, that's it. They're done. They found out for sure on Saturday they cannot qualify for the postseason. And so, it was a bittersweet. But I thought he was really good after the game, and you can watch that interview on YouTube, and you can certainly read my column. You need to. I don't know what you guys are doing if you're not.
Come on.
But he talked about this isn't the conversation I want to be having. Like, I don't want to be answering these types of questions. I want to be talking about, are we going to host? Are we going to be a national seed type thing? That's what he expects, not, hey, the season's over in a week. For the first time, literally, I don't know the last time Florida State went into the final week of the season knowing they could not play in the postseason. It might not have ever happened. I don't know what the rules were for the NCAA tournament back in the 50s and 60s. But certainly not in my lifetime have they been in the middle of May with a week left to go in the season and not already knew that their season was going to be over in a week. That just does not happen to teams like Florida State. So it's an interesting, weird spot to be in. But he brought up the fact that, yeah, man, those kind of moments are big. Like Cam Smith made a really good play, and he's right. He made a really good play defensively in the top of the 9th to keep the game tied. Obviously, Williams gets that hit. Jamie Arnold pitched really well after giving up a 2-run homer in the first, and he thought, okay, well, here we go again. And they've now given up, 7 runs in the last 9 batters going back to Saturday. And then, no, he settled down and really didn't give up another run. The only person that pitched bad was Carson Montgomery. He came in with a runner on first and proceeded to walk the only 2 guys he faced in the 6th inning. And they got out of that with just 1 run. So they did. I mean, the pitchers pitched well. They didn't commit an error. They took walks. Heavens to Betsy. They actually took some walks, and they beat the number 1 team in the country. And by the way, you might think, okay, well, Wake had already won the series. They already know they're going to be a top 8 national seed. I assume they're already they're close to being wrapped up. The 1 seed in the ACC tournament or close. I haven't paid attention to the ACC standings much this year, but it was a really chippy, chirpy game, and there was a lot of back and forth. So Wake was into it. Wake did care, and they were barking back and forth. College baseball has basically become like professional wrestling. These dugouts yell at each other like they're part of the Hitman crew and part of NWA. I can't remember all the wrestling.
The
Hart Foundation. Yeah, man. Or NWA, or what was that? Who was Hollywood Hogan with? NWO. Yeah. NWA is a different group. But yeah, man, it's crazy how much barking goes on between dugouts these days. But anyway, so Wake was into the game and Florida State beat them. And the point being, yeah, you can build a little something off that. Not enough. It's not going to make this offseason tolerable. It doesn't mean the roster's coming back intact. It doesn't mean Link believes in all these young guys. But I think he believes in a good port. I think he believes in Jamie Arnold. I think he believes in Whitaker. I think he believes in Tibbs and Ferrer. Ross, who's out for the year, by the way, with a collarbone because he slammed into a fence chasing a home run that landed. I think the home run landed in the other parking lot. And Ross, for a momentary blip, forgot that a fence was out there in center field and slammed into it and busted up his collarbone. So he's gone for the season, which means, one more week. But they've got some pieces that they like. They've just got to get a lot more pitching. But we think they will. That's priority number one. And I think Link was really pleased, and I don't know how many times he's been pleased with this team at all this year, for that fight they showed after such a bad loss on Saturday, or such a crushing loss, I should say. Friday was the bad loss. Saturday was the crushing loss. To come back knowing they're not playing for the postseason, that dream is crushed. That it was a pipe dream anyway, but it had been broken in half Saturday. But to come back and still win that game, I think showed, he was pretty proud of them. He seemed really proud afterwards. And they do have some young guys they like. He mentioned that he thinks they're the youngest team in the country. He hasn't checked everybody's roster, but they're certainly close to one of the youngest teams in the country. And maybe, just maybe, that's something to build on. A win over the number one team in the country in front of 900 very loyal Florida State fans is something they can maybe build on heading into next season, because I can promise you they do not want to be here again. This is brand new territory for Florida State baseball, and they don't ever want to be in this territory ever again, of knowing their season is over in the middle of May.
Content not over from warchant.com. Stay connected to the Premium Recruiting Board. Updates from the transfer portal, high school prospects. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock as well, over on our YouTube page, Warchant TV, as well as 93.3 FM in Tallahassee, Florida. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. We'll be back with a couple more shows this week for you folks. So download the podcast, subscribe to it, so you just have it come to you whenever, and you don't have to worry about checking and wondering if it's there or not. It'll just get delivered right to your mobile device. It's easy. It's 2023. Take advantage of all these cool toys out there, kids. Again, he's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.